It's the 25th of May 2021. Let's find out what the papers are reporting on this day. We'll start off with which paper now?
We begin with the Daily Times, and it's leading with President's Defense Headers dismisses Southern Governor's position as illegal. And further down the front page, PDP probe. Reps Minority Caucus urges EFCC to also investigate APC federal government officials.
The Nigerian pilot is reporting boldly bloodbath. Suspected armed herdsmen kill over 100 persons in 2 days in Benue. Killings took place in Yoyo, Utanga, Mutiora, Berev, Bayongo wards. Katsina Ala local government chairman alleges military overwhelmed by killings. Defend yourselves, Governor Otom tells Benue people. On page 8 for the details of that story. Reps consider scrapping NYSC as bill reaches second reading. Is on page 9 of the paper.
Let's look now at the Vanguard newspaper. It leads with Asaba declaration, Southern governors open grazing ban, no solution. Presidency is saying there. The story is on page 5 of the paper, and quite a number of riders to that story is up to revive grazing reserve, says Southern governors. Find all the details. Over 116 killed by herdsmen militias in Benue Plateau in 2 days.
All right, let's look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Open grazing, Buhari falls ban. OK's grazing reserves take off. Rubbishes Southern Governor's resolution. On page 6 is where the story is. Insecurity, Chief of Army Staff, others deaths would have increased our problem. That's according to the President. National dialogue will end agitations. Tommy speaking there on pages 6 and 7.
Let's look at People's Daily now. Presidency ban on open grazing, not solution to farmers' herders' crisis, says legality of ban questionable. Rehabilitation of grazing reserves begins in June. Page 5 is where you find the details. And under the masthead of the paper, Mieti Allah to Sokapo, dialogue solution to Southern Kaduna problems. Find details on page 5.
All right, let's look at the daily assets. Malami, Zainab, Mongunu, Emefiola, others, Sean Reps, Perb, and funds recovery. FG begins grazing reserves rehabilitation June, and that flows from the statement released by the presidency. Other papers are reporting ban on open grazing. Well, that aspect was also contained in that statement.
Not a very good picture on the front page of Daily Trust this morning. Burnt Independent National Electoral Commission office yesterday in Anambra State. But the paper is leading with residents recount ordeals as gunmen kill scores in Benue. 7 killed in Plateau reprisal. And under the masthead of the paper, Reps Bill 6 scrapping of NYSC. Find details on page 4.
The news direct insecurity. Buhari summons Niger governor. Others as protesters block Kaduna Abuja highway. One feared dead as Lagos police foil attempt to set police station ablaze. Also on the front page of this paper, INEC explains the use of new registration device for CVR.
Insecurity, over 124 murdered overnight in 3 states is the headline on the front page of New Telegraph newspaper. Headsmen slay 100 children, women, elderly in Benue, 17 and Plateau. Police kill 7 gunmen in Anambra. Pregnant woman, 14 others kidnapped in Niger. I told the military of attackers' strategy. Local government chairman is saying details are on page 3 and 30 of the paper.
The Nigerian Tribune, Asaba declaration. Presidency attacks Southern governors, accuses them of providing no solutions, says stands on open grazing has questionable legality. And page 5 for the details of that story. And only God can wipe my tears, Asani, late pilot's father.
And this day leads with Buhari queries legality of Southern governors' ban on open grazing. OK's ranching, revival of grazing reserves take off in June, and at Dahiru's death has increased our problems, says President as governors pay condolence visit.
The leadership leads with bandit herders on the loose, kill 128 in 4 states. Niger communities block Abuja Kaduna expressway over rampant killings, and security remains my top priority, PMB assures Nigerians. A picture story just gives you more perspective to what the headlines are saying.
Blueprint leads with Heather's farmers crisis. Still, the president is saying that certain governors' ban is not the solution. And of course, the same story: bandits kill 107 in Benue and Plateau, and attacks on facilities now national emergency. INEC is saying that on page 7 of the paper.
All right, the blueprint.
That's our last paper.
That's our last paper.
Blueprint newspaper, yes.
All right, let's discuss the issues. Dr. Austin Maho joins us now, and Abdul Majeed Dahiru, always with us on Tuesday. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Maho, you have to tell me why I didn't pick my call.
An unusual road situation.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
We thought,
So we are here.
Welcome.
Yes, good to have you.
Good to see you live and well.
And of course, we have the traditional problem.
Yes.
Besetting the country.
Absolutely. I think we'll start off from the presidency's reaction. I think this is the first official reaction of the presidency to the Southern Governor's resolution a couple of weeks ago. The Attorney General of the Federation spoke on this issue. He came under serious attack. The presidency has spoken, more or less towing the line of the Attorney General.
Yes.
So we see where the presidency is coming from. It's a mind of the Attorney General, and that's the legal opinion he has provided to the presidency on this issue. Let's discuss that.
A lot of people have weighed in on this issue. Since the Southern governors came up with their resolution in Asaba, and subsequently the Southwest governors all across the state, then the 17th Southern state governor reached the resolution on the contentious issue of open grazing and placed a ban on it. All across the country, there seems to be a consensus that, look, open grazing is outdated, it's anachronistic, it cannot be sustained. You can't sustain an 800 years old tradition into the future. For how long is it going to go? So surprisingly, many of us felt that, well, since the Southern governors who are greatly affected by this anomaly have weighed in and taken a position, it's a fait accompli. The federal government is supposed to say, look, it's a federation. If a major part of the federation are towing this line, let's look for a way to come to a round table and look for a solution to the problem along the lines of the resolution of the Southern governors. And of course, we know that many governors in the north have equally come up to say, look, this is not sustainable. So there is a general agreement that we cannot continue like this, whereby one part of the country is exporting its problem, its traditional problem, to another part of the country, not the other way around. It's not the farmers in the south or other craftsmen in the south that are carrying the problem associated with their trade to go and invade those in the northern part of the country. So that alone tells you that there's an anomaly that needs to be dealt with. Then yesterday, boom, the statement from Mr. Presidency or the presidency or the president, signed by Garba Shehu, to the effect that a condescending and arrogant statement, which shows the arrogance of power at its best.
Says the Southern governors did not provide any solutions.
That's what the is baffling, because the solution everybody has spoken about, the solution, ranching, or at worst, what you call ruga, which a lot of people look with suspicion, which is a bigger concept when it comes to ranch. The solution is there. So to say that there is no solution is burying your head in the sand. To issue that statement and say there are two things that baffles me in that statement, which why I say it is condescending, an appointee of the federal government issuing such a statement to a block of 17 governors of the South. It's not only it's an insult on this position they have taken. To say they issued their position is of dubious or questionable legality. Very funny. And in all of this, we have to pay attention to Garba Shehu's penchant to issue public communication, which amount to a Scotch egg policy. Yeah. In terms of communication, it's Scotch egg. No matter whose ox is gone.
Appears that they should not carefully avoid this kind of thing.
Yes. And again, we have to equally pay attention. If at now
put his name on it.
If at now Buhari is still sticking to his guns about open grazing, then we should be afraid for this country. Right. To the extent that, look, the entire national discourse in the past 6 years has been reduced to one primary issue: cows. And look at the headlines like we have in
Majeed.
In the leadership of today. It's still one thing: headers.
128
killed.
Some papers are 136.
Is it not a problem enough? You know, there's a solution to this problem. Can the federal government come down, even if it is for these killings, daily tolls of killings we are recording, you know, frequently?
Majeed, what is going on in your yes, and naturally you should be. I mean, Dr. Maho just described Shehu Garba's
I call it Scotch egg approach to public communication.
and put Shehu Garba, an appointee of government, against 17 elected government officials who must do right by their people, who must safeguard the lives and property of their people, who must just find that the livelihoods of their people are not cut short. And again, over a recurring problem that seems to have a very simple solution, yet this simple solution has been made absolutely impossible and difficult to achieve.
Dr. Maho has said everything that needs to be said this morning. In fact, for the rest of the week, we may not need to add anything much to what he has said. But I think he was being charitable when he talked about arrogance of the statement or condescending nature of the statement. I think the tragedy in that statement is that it reeks of arrogance of ignorance. To describe the Asaba Accords, which was a way out of our road to Sudan, if implemented, as dubious, as illegal, as just politicking, tells you the magnitude of the absence of governance in the Nigerian state today. And we should stop talking about Garba Shehu. Garba Shehu is an appointee of the president. That statement is President Muhammadu Buhari's statement written on his behalf by Garba Shehu. So Garba Shehu cannot be held liable for that statement.
He signed it.
That is the function of an appointee in a presidential system of government.
Yeah.
Garba Shehu, Attorney General Malami, and all other appointees are exercising authority on behalf of the president. So it is the president we should be talking about, not Garba Shehu, really. It's not Garba Shehu's, it's not my president.
He's a messenger.
That statement is Buhari's statement. Well, this is one thing we have to understand. It's not Garba Shehu's statement. The statement by Malami is Malami's statement, is Buhari's statement, not Malami. This is the president's mindset. So Malami, as a lawyer, will find a way to bring about some conjectures that would simply present it as legal. It's as simple as that. Now, back to the issue. There is no such thing as former harass clashes. What you have is criminal trespass on people's land and properties by marauding herdsmen who have refused to obey constituted authority. But unfortunately, we have a commander-in-chief, and this is where the danger is, who shares the same ethnicity with this group of people, and who at every point in time uses the office, the highest office in the land, the office of the president that belongs to all of us, that belongs to the Jebus, the Shekiris, the Ubos, the Iberians, the Igalas, the Edos, the Bidis, all of us. This office has been used in the last 6 years consistently to defend the interests of one particular group amongst over 1,000 people in Nigeria. It means our president, once again with this statement, has reinforced the belief in so many Nigerians that he places his ethnicity over and above his nationality. A nation can survive material corruption of its leadership. No nation survives a sectional leadership. So that's why we have in Nigeria today. The situation in Nigeria today is like a tragic plot from the Sudanese playbook. I will repeat it again. And in this plot, in Sudanese Omar al-Bashir, we have our own president, Muhammadu Buhari. In Ahmed al-Turabi, the former Islamist Attorney General of Sudan, whose Islamist separatist agenda drove that country into separation. We have a combination of Malami and, of course, Pantami combined in one. So the stage is set for what happened to Sudan, what happened to Nigeria. And in the killer herdsmen we have today, Sudanese had it in the Janjaweed militia. So everything seems to be adding up. But we cannot forget that Sudan is also like Nigeria, splitting between Christian South and Muslim North. With a very divisive leader, Nigeria might not survive the current shenanigans in the highest office in the land. In the last 6 years, it has been cattle, cows. Nigeria is fighting a cow war. It's like it's a war of cattle going on. The entire public discourse, all policies, everything has been about cattle. This is preposterous. The southern governors did not ask Fulani cattle breeders to leave the south or stop breeding cattle. They didn't ask them for that. The southern governor, and it's important to emphasize this. Yes. The southern governors have not asked Hausa traders in all the sabos, in all the foodstuff markets to leave the south. The Ebira farmers from northern Nigeria that are cultivating 60% of the land in Ondo and Ekiti have not been asked to leave for 1 minute. You know why? All of these northern economic groups are law-abiding. They have integrated, they have assimilated, they give birth there, they name their children Yoruba names, including cattle breeding community, the Fulani cattle breeding community that settled, that are itinerant. What people are saying is the migrant pastoralists who move cattle from place and encroaches on people's farmland. Nigeria today is likely to go into a starvation mode because crops are being destroyed. Farmers no longer go to the market, to the farms to farm because of these people. And we are saying, convey your cattle through appropriate means to the various markets and have a settled cattle breeding system, otherwise known as ranches. And then the federal government comes and says you cannot ban people from moving cattle by foot across farms land. By governors that are supposed to enforce one another in their states. So it means the federal government, on behalf of morality killer herdsmen, are challenging the authority, constituted authority, elected authorities across the 17 states of the federation. And because of the arrogance of their ignorance, they fail to understand that one, northern governors have similarly voiced their disapproval of the continuous practice of open grazing. And the governor of Kano has been very vociferous about it. Saying himself is the fool animal. Later in his life. And he said this is no longer sustainable. And they also fail to understand that this resolution is across party lines in the south, across religious lines in the south, across ethnic lines in the south. And as Dr. Maho said, the half of our country decided to take a position, and the presidency comes out to puncture that position on behalf of a tiny group of people that have wreaked havoc more in his home state of Katsina than even in Ondo State, where the governor who read the resolution came from. If there's any part of Nigeria today that needs a complete ban on open grazing, it is northern Nigeria that has become desolate. Most of the killings reported today happened in northern Nigeria. Most of the kidnappings happens in northern Nigeria in his own home state.
Dr. Mao, let's go back to the leadership newspaper. You raised it earlier.
Yeah.
We're talking about, here we are again. We started this conversation at 7 a.m. It's 22 minutes past 7.
What we started.
And we have only just again talked about cows. But let's look at these pictures that Utibe was describing earlier. Not just communities block Abuja Kaduna Expressway over rampant kidnappings and killings. And so it has started. It means that people have been pushed to the wall and now they're pushing back. So the government needs to either do something now or the people will take the laws into their own hands, because they can go further than just blocking and, you know, setting tires ablaze in the middle of the road. And let's go to Benue State, where the governor has again reiterated to his people, defend yourself. And Garba Shehu releases
his statement.
His
you know,
statement.
is heartbreaking that what we all see, what is obvious to everybody, is not seen or obvious to those who are the minders of this country. They carry on. You know, this is Garba Shehu and his like, and you know, at times I don't want to mention President Muhammadu Buhari, because his fault is equally the fault of his minders. If his minders cannot correct him when he is going astray, they don't have a hope. Because I have made my conclusion about Buhari a long time ago. Buhari is an absolutist. Buhari sees things in black and white, whereas the world is in multicolor. Buhari sees right, wrong, good, bad.
No in-betweens.
He's tunnel visioned. There's no in-between. But the reality of life is that between black and white, there are shades of gray. Nothing is totally black, nothing is totally white. But he doesn't see life like that. He's an absolutist to the core. And once he has taken a position, he sticks to it to the end. But it takes the people around him to put him on the right track. So when people around him bend double to do his will, or to even read his body language and frame their statement and policies in office along that line, it shows you that power in Nigeria, which we all know is transient, people don't see it that way. They see 8 years, 4 plus 4, 8 years as 80 years. This will pass, but it has at best 2 years to remain in office. And everything will be left to us journalists to write the history of this administration. You know, to do a post-mortem of how this administration has felt in power.
Which we're already doing.
Yes, we are doing it in a hurry now, but we'll settle down and do it very well. Which will put the final verdict. At the end of the day, it's Buhari's government that is going to be. It's not going to be Shehu Garaba's government or Shehu Malami's government. And to your question about this, it only shows that government is a reflection of the fact that government at all levels has failed. The federal government has failed, and people are resorting to self-help. It's just like you said, autumn the Benue State government, out of frustration, I said, look, my people, even if you can get them done, go and get a thing gone and protect yourself.
We're sliding back to the state of nature.
No. When there's a breakdown of law and order,
because the social contract seems to be broken.
Go to the
if
jungle.
I'm to go by Thomas Hobbes' theory of the concept of the state.
If you go to the jungle, why the jungle is in a Hobbesian state perpetually is because the king of the jungle only takes care of his own section of the jungle. Only the lion cubs, only the lionesses. They go and hunt from all other animals. They prey on other animals and take it only their conclave to it. What else is the king of the jungle? Where the jungle is lawless and it's survival of the fittest. Nigeria is assuming that
dimension.
Let's say this too, please. Let us not allow the spin doctors of the presidency to distract us from the real issue. There's no correlation between land distribution for grazing, call it anyhow what you want to call it, and banditry. I insist, banditry is a crime. When I was kidnapped in Lokoja in 2016, I was not kidnapped on my farmland. No, I was not struggling with land with my abductors. They kidnapped me for a ransom which I paid. The government is refusing. And I'm saying this well, that the reason why banditry is still happening is because somebody somewhere simply thinks it's former harbors classes. And until all of you agree, all of us here agree, that there should be Ruga settlements. Because what the president actually said yesterday was, accept Ruga now for this to stop. It's like a subtle blackmail of the Nigerian people. That until you cede your land, we cannot stop this.
Is it actually blackmail? What was it?
Because they talked about raising reserves
that time. Family additional you see that you submit your land or you
exactly. Yes. And he says we're going to start with states who have willingly surrendered their lands for grazing reserves. Means we're going to start with them, and you that has not done that will come
to say a kidnapper that makes millions of naira in billions from kidnapping will not be dissuaded or discouraged to go and adopt cattle breeding lifestyle, even if you create across the entire country. So we are leaving the real issue unattended as we speak.
But Majeed, you excused Garba Shehu initially, but I don't think he should be excused totally, because, I mean, you're called special advisors, isn't it, on media. Your principal is assumed doesn't know how to write a script, a script that will be sent to, you know, professionals in the media organizations across the country, and the public for public consumption. You are the professional script writers here, and even when your principal has a mindset, a point of view which he wants to put across, you as a professional needs to present it in such a way that it's palatable, especially on very controversial, sensitive, and delicate issues such as this. So whether or not it is President Muhammadu Buhari's point of view he's trying to pass, how do you pass that point of view to the public?
Can I surprise you?
Yes.
You'll be surprised to know that Garba Shehu must have done a lot of professional work on original thinking of the president on this issue to come out this bad. It would have been worse like this if it was written verbatim. This is the president's mindset. You know what I'm saying this? Let us focus on the issue. We are elected for the Muhammadu Buhari as our president. This is his mindset. It's been consistent since the day he was elected. This has been his position. Buhari has very lamented the blocking of grazing routes as responsible for some of these issues. When it happened in Benin in 2018, or about in January 2018, when 72 people were killed in a single day, the presidency, the Minister of Defense, all government spokes, even the IG of police said that I should blame for the killing of some people for passing into law, for sending into law the anti-open law. It tells you that the president has a mindset against anything that will disturb open grazing. And this is an agenda of a tiny group within a larger group. And more than any other person since 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari and his government has given our Fulani people the greatest image baggage. Because each time you equate crime to the cultural occupation, you're going to let us know that Fulanis are criminals. And that's why anytime you see Fulanis moving peacefully, innocently, for to do that, people start calling for security help. He's the one that is giving them that image, not the media, not me, not you, not Dr. Maho. He is the one that has given them that image. And with this latest statement, he's failed to enforce law and order, combat crime and criminality on the basis that they have to establish legal settlements. Again, he's telling us that look, these people are the ones doing it, and until we give them land, they will stop doing it. So, how do you begin to blame the media for characterizing Fulanis as criminals when the president and commander-in-chief, who claims to love them so much, has told us that they are doing this because of the cultural occupation disruption? So you see, this is the problem we are facing today. And unfortunately, he will leave after 8 years without solving
this problem.
The problem of the Fulani people. And he has complicated it the more, because before today, Fulanis are integrated and assimilated into any community they choose to live in. They are loved, they contribute to the economy of those societies, and we didn't have this level of problem. So he has complicated, he has left them in quandary, and I don't know how that to be solved after he leaves office.
Dr. Maho, what the southern governors have made this Asaba Accord, what do you expect of the southern governors? Because I'm hoping that this situation, this comments by the presidency will not have some kind of negative effect. Looking at the constitutional rights of the governors and being the chief executives of their own state, and the presidency taking a position against this particular accord, what do you expect the southern governors to do moving forward?
No. What is obvious in all of it is this: is a situation of who blinks first. It is this schism, this division, that is being driven by the federal government in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari through his policies and pronouncement that we've condemned all along. You don't build a country of us against them. What we have now is an us against them situation. When 17 southern governors take a position and the federal government move against that position, it is us. You have created a scenario of, you have declared the war. Yes, us against them. Are you expecting the 17 state governors to back down in the face of the federal might? They are not going to. They are not going to balk. And they are going to. He will not help them.
That's actually my point.
It is his duty to. He has no choice. Has no option. Any law passed by any state, any regulation, it is President Muhammadu Buhari's duty to enforce
It means that if the southern governors stick to their guns, it will not be enforced.
And under these circumstances, they have no choice but to stick to their gun. What he has eventually done is to create a scenario whereby they have no choice. This is an existential threat as far as I'm concerned to this.
So you are seeing the Benwell card playing out here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's an existential threat.
The presidency
did not enforce it.
And the governors do not have the tools of enforcement. So at the end of the day,
if you refuse to do that,
they would dig in and maintain their position. What would the federal government do?
What would the states do? Because if the president go ahead with what he's trying to do now, that alternative we have feared most. That alternative will set it, and Nigeria will inch closer towards state collapse.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. Right. So the point should be called to order now. Nigeria is bigger than President Muhammadu Buhari. I want my country to fail.
And the 17 state governors are bigger than President Muhammadu Buhari.
I think the conversation has started already. It's very, very ridiculous and quite ludicrous that at the time that nations are sending equipments to Mars and sending missions to ridiculous. But we want to say thank you so much for being here, Dr. Maho and Majeed. Pleasure having you.
A depressing conversation, I must add. Really depressing. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Yeah, we're going to advance this conversation further. We have an elder statesman with us in the studio. Former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Obon Victor Tai, is here with us. And we shall be looking at the key issues threatening the Nigerian state at the moment, especially the latest one we've just finished talking about. That's coming up in a moment.
Stay with us.